Good evening, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board of Trustees. We begin each meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. You would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tom, you were blending right in with the flag there.
I know.
Okay, roll call of members.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Glenna Yale, 2nd District.
Tom Smith, 3rd District.
Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Ann Duff, Member at Large.
Jordan Lebemoff, the 4th District.
And I'm Julie Hollingsworth, elected from District 1. And to my far left is Janet Doherty, the clerk of the board. Good evening. And our superintendent, Dr. Winnie Robinson.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, so we have no awards and recognitions, so that brings us to the consent agenda. And these are items that come to us every meeting. They include the minutes from our last meeting, which was a month ago on June 24th, which board members have seen. They include vouchers and payroll, vouchers for the periods ending July 8th and July 22nd, and payroll for the periods ending June 21st and July 5th, which members have also seen, and the personnel report, which we've seen, which has an addendum to it. So do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve. So all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, Dr. Robinson, was there anything on the personnel report that you wanted to mention?
Yes, ma'am. A couple of introductions. We have with us Kara Miller, who is joining us at Indian Village as the principal. She let me get it together. She was 13 years in the Anderson Community Schools and most recently was in Muncie Community Schools. She began her education career, I won't tell the year, in Muncie. And we welcome her to Indian Village. Jay Peters took a position back in his hometown of Huntington. And I don't know who was more upset, Jay or me. But his mentor became the superintendent. So the people at Indian Village are not happy with us yet, but Kara's going to help them understand
Or
that
they
they're
will
going to
be.
go on. They're going to be fine. So she's already been out talking to people, and I appreciate that. The second person needs no introduction, but I will, Matt Schiebel. On the agenda, you also saw that Tim Rail resigned to pursue another career. Mr. Schiebel joined us in 1987. I'm telling his age. I wouldn't tell you. And served as a science teacher at Black Hawk. And he became an administrative intern at Geyer. But in 1997, he was named the FWCS Teacher of the Year and was one of 10 state finalists. He was an assistant principal at Lane. 2 years later, he became the principal at Northwood. He then moved to Shawnee, and most recently was at Kikianga. And so we felt there was no better candidate to take Mr. Rail's position and become a secondary director.
Congratulations, Steve. Is that it?
That's it for now.
Okay. Okay, looks like we have no old business, so that brings us to our new business. And first thing on the agenda are the 1920 special education grants. It's recommended that the board approve the acceptance of special education grants from the Indiana Department of Education for the school year 2019-2020. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, requires that after the base payment allocations are provided, additional funding is awarded to each district based on public and private school enrollments within the local school jurisdiction and according to the number of private school enrollments within the local school jurisdiction and according to the number of children living in poverty. Funds are used to support salaries and fringes of approximately 130 staff members. These non-competitive grants are in addition to the Special Education Foundation payment. For Fort Wayne Community Schools, the Part B Special Education Grant for next school year is $8,573,880, a decrease of $192,000 from last year. The preschool special education grant is $310,705, an increase of $7,634 from last year. These non-competitive grants are managed by Nikki Sprunger, Director of the Department of Special Education, and support District Goal 1, achieve and maintain academic excellence. So questions will be answered by Nikki Sprunger. We have a motion and a second.
Move for passage.
Second.
Thanks, Glenna. Thanks, Tom. So, questions? How many students, I'm curious, approximately, do we anticipate will serve with this?
5,700. About 617 of those are non-public students.
Okay. And so have we decreased students in special education? Does that explain the slight decrease, or?
No, that's a good question. It looks like a decrease, but actually for that fiscal year, what we call FY19, there were $8 million in carryover funds in the state of Indiana. So they spread those out among all the school corporations. So actually we have about a 15% increase when you look at the actual funds from FY18 to FY20. So the decrease
okay, well, that's good
is
to know.
just because there were no carryover funds, not because we actually got cut funding.
Okay.
Very good.
That's good. Just out of curiosity, then, why would there be carryover funds?
And I'm going to explain this to you the best I can. In the state of Indiana, we have funds that pass over. We fund things that are called Indiana Resource Networks, such as the Transition Network, the IEP Center, there's Hands on Autism. So if those funds, if they actually met their budget and there was excess money left over, they put it into the grants.
Okay.
And that's the easy
That's the easy
explanation.
version? Easy enough for a school board member to understand. Gotcha. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Nikki. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next we have the 2019-20 Carl Perkins Continuation Grant. It's recommended that the board approve the application for and acceptance of the 1920 Carl Perkins Continuation Grant in the amount of $1,045,731 from the Indiana Department of Education and the Governor's Workforce Cabinet. The 1920 Carl Perkins Grant is federal funding allocated annually to area, career, and technical education districts by the state of Indiana. Funds from this grant will allow for the continuation of a range of services for the benefit of over 9,000 career and technical education students in Allen County. The funds in this year's grant are designated for personnel, professional learning, instructional materials, and of course assessment fees, supplies, equipment, and purchase services. This is a non-competitive grant written by Jesse Webb, Director of the Career and Technical Education Area 14, along with Mary McCardle, Assistant Director of the Career and Technical Education Area 14. Fort Wayne Community Schools is the fiscal agent for these funds, and there's no requirement to match the grant with local funds. This grant supports our District Goal 1, and questions will be answered by Jesse Webb, Principal of the Career Academy at Anthus. Do we have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Steve. So, any questions? Okay, guess not. Bummer.
That's all right.
Having a good summer?
It's a good summer, yes.
Okay, great. Isn't registration this week?
Isn't next week or next
As long as he's here.
Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you seeing increases in student enrollment in certain classes and programs?
Right now, we're maxed out in, I would say, all but about 5 programs right now. In those programs that were not maxed out, it's just 1 or 2 students. So we'll go kind of on our wait list and see and recruit kids from, the area high schools as well by contacting guidance counselors.
Construction programs?
Construction
just as strong
programs.
as everyone else?
Yeah, yep. Construction, welding, health sciences, all those are going to continue to be full.
This reminds me, and I'll just mention this because you're here, but I heard something on NPR that said that utility companies are going, over the next 5-10 years, are going to lose anywhere from 25 to 50% of their workers. So I'm just saying,
That's why
could
we
be a
push.
next
That's why we
partnership.
push internships
Right.
and all that stuff so that we prepare those kids for future workforce.
Right, exactly. Right.
We've had a conversation with NIPSCO regarding a program in Northwest Indiana. Their program, their entry-level job is a lineman because the people who used to read our meters have been, that job has now been taken over by a computer. Somebody drives around in a car and reads your meter, but they have an 18-month lineman technology program that they do in conjunction with Ivy Tech.
Blind person.
And if you successfully complete the program, the 18-month program, you're offered an interview, not a job, but the instructors are all folks from NIPSCO. So
Wow.
if you've been doing a good job, they know who that is. But the entry-level wage, this does not include benefits, the entry-level wage is $40 an hour.
Wow.
So that's, 2,080-hour year, that's $82,000. And if there's overtime with a storm
Exactly.
in northern Indiana or elsewhere, most of those linemen are making $100,000 a year. So if you work with your hands well, if you're not afraid of height, if you're not afraid of, bad weather, there's a great career there
Yeah,
without having to go to college.
right.
I agree.
Maybe something we can pursue.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Okay.
Oh, don't tell Jesse that. Might as well stand, because the next one's you too.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So any other questions? All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay, so now we have the summer expansion grant, and that is $35,000 from the Indiana Department of Education and the Governor's Workforce Cabinet. And this is also federal funding allocated to the area career and technical education districts by the state of Indiana. So blah, blah, blah. Jesse wrote the grant along with Mary McCardle, supports our District 1, and Jesse's still here to answer questions.
Yes.
So, motion and a second.
So move.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Maria. So summer expansion.
So
What's
this is
that?
to provide externship opportunities for educators, for teachers, to go out in the workforce, and they have to develop a lesson plan or some way of getting that business partner that they were an extern with into their classroom so that they kind of do a co-teaching. And so it's really them getting some experience with career and tech ed and bringing that into the classroom as well.
So this is somehow connected to that new requirement that teachers that are going to get PGP points.
I think in
they
the
have-
future it'll be connected to that. This was kind of a start to that program.
Okay.
So they have to work at least 40 hours throughout the summer.
Is it
And
just,
so-
excuse me,
Go ahead.
is this money for activities that are occurring this summer or the summer of 2020?
This summer. It's currently happening now. We have 7 educators that are taking advantage of this opportunity.
What are they doing?
Okay.
I know some are working in the construction trades. Some are working in IT programming. So.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Jesse.
Yep.
All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we have, and you know what, wait a minute. Yeah, now I'm just going to take these both together. So we have the Adult Education Competitive Grant, and we have the Adult Education Integrated English Literacy and Civics Education Competitive Grant. So the Adult Education Competitive Grant is $843,502.26 from the Indiana Department of Workforce Development, Division of Adult Career and Technical Education. This is state funding, annually allocated to 12 regions of the state. This allows for a continuation of a range of services from the Fort Wayne Community School District and Allen County Continuing Education Program, designated for personnel, professional development, instructional materials, supplies, equipment, purchase services, integrated education and training, workforce education, including workforce certification programming for local Allen County businesses and industry, support services for students 16 years of age and older. The grant is written by the manager of the Continuing Education Department, Patrick Bowles, along with the Region 3 Adult Education Consortium. Supports our District Goal 1 and District Goal 2, engage parents and the community. And then we have the other adult education grant, that's Integrated English Literacy and Civics Education Competitive Grant. That's $150,000 from the Office of State of Indiana Department of Workforce Development. It's to provide adult English language instruction, integrating all 4 civics concepts: naturalization, civic engagement, United States history and government. Blah, blah. And also support, this is for adult English language learner students 17 years of age and older. And again, this grant is written by Pat Bowles and supports our District 1 and Goal 1 and Goal 2. So, questions will be answered by the manager of continuing education, Pat Bowles. Do we have a motion and a second?
Move for approval. Second.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Ann. So, how many students do you serve in your department?
In our department, including Neighborhood Connection, all the programming, this year we served 2,314 students.
But what part of that is continuing education is served by these 2 grants?
In those 2 grants, the HSE and ELL, it's about 1,100 students.
Okay. And so these 2, so you have, this $843,502, so how much of that, of your budget is that? And I'm curious, how much is your budget?
Budget-wise, when you look at that, it's probably about, I would say, from the AE budget, we have both the AE and the IELCE, and it's probably around 85 to 90%.
Okay.
So the difference in those 2 budgets for people that didn't know the acronyms is one state federal, one's federal, what?
Yeah, they all actually begin at the federal level, and it's passed down to the state. The AE is the adult ed that is primarily responsible for such programs as the HSE, high school diploma track students there. And it also has components in it that involve the individualized education, integrated education training, and the workforce education initiatives. The IELCE is very similar in nature, only that is directly involved with the ELL programming and the students that are in our department that are in English language learners.
Pat, with the adult ed grant of the $843,000, most of it is to support adult basic education. Is that by a formula that they provide you, or is that formula developed locally?
Actually, it is a formula decided in regards to the state, and it has such component in it as unemployment rates.
Right.
And then also performance per region and per program.
But we spend about 80% of it on ABE, and is that, again, by formula or by local decision?
It's mostly by formula there and by regional consortium there.
And then with the $90,000, do businesses then approach you for training that they need? And if so, who then delivers the training?
Basically, that's a combination, both myself and one of my personnel in my program. We go and visit businesses as well as getting phone calls from them or at meetings. We're on board of directors where we have a lot of contact with individuals. And then what we do is we go to the business, meet with them, talk about basically what a program may look like, and most importantly, to get an idea of what their needs are. And then from that, we develop a program that has ownership on both sides of the equation there and deal with the collaboration.
So is it for their workers who don't have a very strong command of the English language, or workers who need to improve on their math skills?
Basically, it's a combination of many things. As an example, we have a partnership with Nishikawa Cooper, and basically with them, we have an instructor that we hire, and they go in and teach the Burmese employees, working with their manuals and so forth, and language and vocabulary. We also, for instance, are working now with Walmart, and we're developing some HSE programming in regards to getting their HSE or GED. And part of that, too, is the fact that with the employment rate decreasing, or the employment rate increasing, but the unemployment rate decreasing, we're having more and more industries and businesses around the area who are accepting students that don't have a high school diploma, don't have an HSE, because the demand is so great there.
Right.
So we're trying to work some collaborations with different businesses that we provide that service at their locations, and so that they are able to do that.
Is the civic portion of this grant, is that new? Is that a new emphasis, or have you guys always helped with the naturalization and U.S. history and government and so forth?
Actually, I've been in the department 10 years, and we've always had that component with it. So,
Thank you.
And about how many adults each year do we, graduate, get their HSE or their high school diploma?
and again, it varies from year to year.
Right.
This past year, we had approximately 228 students that received their HSEs, and then we had, I believe it was 14 high school diploma students that graduated. And that we run from the program year from July 1st to June 30th there.
Right. And it's a great ceremony.
Thank you.
Awesome. Highlight of the year. And then I also went to your ELL
Absolutely.
ceremony this year. I forget, there's beginning and intermediate, and then 2 levels of advanced. And that was a really neat ceremony too. It's
Yes, we've added the student speakers in that program, and that's been a real nice touch for those students. And it's their stories, no matter what,
Exactly.
what program, and that's what makes it so special.
right. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Pat. All those in favor of approving both these grants signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we have, Maria's going to do the phone system maintenance.
It is recommended that the board approve the purchase of Mitel VoIP phone maintenance from Frontier Communications of Fort Wayne, Indiana for $368,420. FWCS installed a new Mitel VoIP phone system 5 years ago that included annual maintenance for the first 5 years. With the expiration of the initial maintenance contract, FWCS now needs to purchase maintenance for continued coverage. The purchase is a 4-year contract that will be paid in annual installments of $92,105 from the Capital Projects Maintenance Account. This addresses Goal 3, operate with integrity and fiscal responsibility, and Jack Bird, the Director of Technology, is here to answer questions.
Thanks. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Glenna. Questions? Okay. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Tom, you've got copy paper.
No, I thought I had milk. But I will take copy.
Okay, take, I wrote down, did I write it down wrong?
I don't care. You want me to do the paper thing?
Take milk.
Pardon?
Go ahead, take milk.
I'll take milk.
I'll do copy paper. So it's recommended that an award be made to the lowest responsive bidder, meeting specifications and quality standards. And the company is AMO from Fort Wayne, Indiana, for $246,449.50. This bid is for a supply of copy paper to be stocked in the warehouse. The largest portion of the bid is 8,400 cases of 8.5 by 11 white paper. All schools and central administrative units are served by this supply. A comparison of prices by item is on file in purchasing services and may be reviewed upon request. The prices of this recommended bidder reflect a 4.62 increase when compared to the last bid that opened in June of 2018. Invitations were sent to 15 prospective bidders with 8 responding. You can see the bids that were received, the complete bids that were received below, and questions will be addressed by Director of Purchasing, Rod Rathke. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Steve. Any questions?
How long will this paper supply last us?
It's approximately a 1 year. Usually we order either June or July, but it is 1 year.
Okay.
And we usually have a little inventory left over to, to make sure we don't run out, so
Just curious if it was a year's worth or 6 months' worth?
it's a year.
How much do you use in your office, Jordan?
I don't know.
Oh,
But guess who's taking
Worry
it
about
home to read it?
exactly.
You can give them that price, you can give me that price.
Any other questions? Thanks, Rod.
Yep.
All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And I'll just mention that, when I look at 4.62% increase, when the legislature expects us to give teacher raises on a less than 2% increase over the next 2 years, this is another reason that when supplies and utilities and all those things go up, an increase in school funding does not translate directly to an increase in teacher pay. Okay. So Glenna, am I correct that you're doing office supply contract?
Yes. So it is recommended that an award be made to AMO, Fort Wayne, Indiana, for a 3-year contract for office supplies. Fort Wayne Community School secretaries will place orders online for office supply products, excluding copy paper, which we already purchased. Products will be delivered to all locations the next business day. AMO is a locally owned company and will fill all orders through their local warehouse. AMO will perform all deliveries with their own trucks and employees. Fort Wayne Community Schools is able to enter this contract without soliciting proposals because AMO's pricing for our core list of products is 14% below the state of Indiana's quantity purchasing agreement. Contracted pricing through Office Depot. And questions will be addressed by the Director of Purchasing Services, Rod Rathke.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve.
Second.
What's that?
Sure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whatever.
Questions?
I did have a couple.
Okay.
Hey, Rod, is this the first time we've entered into this type of contract where the vendor delivers the product?
Now, we currently we've been contracted for the last several years with Office Depot, and we've been talking to AMO, where they've approached us a couple times in the
Okay.
last year or so, and
So
So
we
we-
save on having to put the supplies in warehouse and then
right.
when a school needs something to then create that picker up, somebody has to pick all that stuff from our warehouse and then deliver it by somebody who's driving a truck.
Correct, yes.
I love that. So is there some discipline where those now, or those that have been ordering can only order items from a defined list? They can't buy that cute little calendar with the koala bears on it or something like that?
Yes, we have a core list of approximately 500 items that we tell our school and all of our departments that this is the core list, this is what we want you ordering. Do we make exceptions once in a while? Yes, if somebody needs a different colored binder.
Right.
That's not on the core list. So we work with the schools, but there is a core list, and that was the pricing comparison that we did.
Great price on that. You know, from time to time, I get material from the National School Boards Association's program called Buy Board. And
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
promoted it as the greatest thing since sliced bread. Is it?
Well, there's a lot of cooperative purchasing entities like that, and they all say that. The Office Depot pricing the contractor we had was through the state. They won the state contract.
Right.
And I can't, without doing pricing comparison, I would have to look, but, Buy Board may have very good pricing, but we're very confident through AMO that we're getting a good competitive price, and they're local, and I've been wanting to do this for a while because they're local, and it's now that the pricing, we did the comparison, and it makes sense to me.
I mean, I know we're a fairly large consumer of a wide range of products, and I've got to believe that you are approached by a number of
Yes,
salesmen claiming to have the best and lowest price.
every day for something.
And I assume that if it was true, that we would be doing that.
Right,
With that.
we look at a lot of options to make sure we're, buying the best we can. We're very confident. The contracts we have are, very competitive. Could you go online and look up an office supply somewhere that's cheaper?
Right.
Probably, maybe, but the big picture, we think this is a good contract.
Yeah, and I got to say again that, having that company deliver the product, I think.
Right, next day, yes.
Just-in-time delivery
Yeah.
Right.
is just outstanding.
Yeah, and Parkview uses AMO, Vera Bradley, Steel Dynamics.
Right.
I've talked to a few of those folks, and they're very satisfied with AMO.
Yeah.
I think I want to give Rod some kudos because Rod and Kathy's shop, we're constantly figuring out ways to give people choices without getting crazy with public dollars. And when we went to Office Depot, it was because the state wanted us to, but that next day delivery, we'd have people retire and they'd have a whole closet worth of stuff they were hoarding because they never knew when they'd get a supply.
Right.
Well, if you know you're going to get it the next day, you don't have to order 7 of them. So it's really, and that's a lot of research that Rod's done, and he does.
We see
homework.
all the orders.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what the schools are ordering to make sure nobody's doing
And he
anything.
says no when it doesn't make sense, when it's
Well,
something we can't explain.
I mean, I heard those very same or similar comments from Donovan Clara, who runs Parkview's distribution program, and before she took that program on and centralized everything, she had every little Parkview office in Northeast Indiana hoarding their supplies, not because they didn't know when they would need it,
Yeah, they
right?
didn't know when they'd get them either.
Yeah.
That's not been a problem. I just wanted to give Rod kudos, because he oversees this, and sometimes people aren't happy. But he holds people accountable for what they're buying and how much they buy and what you bought last year, and that's his job. So thank you, Rod.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Tom, looks like you got milk.
Forgot the milk. It is recommended that an award be made to the most responsible and responsive bidder meeting specifications, quality standards, and complete dairy service. The bid is awarded based on 3 categories of half-pint containers, which include 1% white, fat-free chocolate, and fat-free strawberry milk. Half pints of milk, estimated at 5.7 million annually, represent about 90% of total dairy purchases for 64 locations, including our schools and 12 private schools. Other dairy items such as yogurt, cottage cheese, and large units of milk will also be provided and are in addition to the cost above. The bid is for a 1-year contract with the option to renew. There were 2 bidders, and Deans of Indiana won, and the bid was for $1,091,800. The price per half pint in this bid is approximately 13.95% increase when compared to the current contract pricing. Candace Hagar, Director of Nutrition Services, will answer any questions.
Okay, thanks. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Thanks, Glenna. Thanks, Ann. Any questions? Okay. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Jordan, transfer of property.
It's recommended that the board authorize the transfer of the following properties just south of the Catalpa Street service station to the Hopson House Incorporated. Lots numbers 442 through 447, lots 482 through 486, as well as lots 491 and 492. In addition, it's recommended that the north 90 feet of each of the following lots numbered 448 through 455, in the third commercial addition to the city of Fort Wayne, according to the plat thereof, recorded in Plat Record 4, page 48, in the office of the Recorder of Allen County, be transferred. The aforementioned 21 vacant lots totaling approximately 2.37 acres are unused surplus properties. Transfers of these parcels fall within the Indiana law requirements in reference to disposal of real or personal property, specifically Indiana Code 36-1-11-5.5. Darren Hess, the Director of Facilities, is here to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Jordan. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve.
Darren,
Go ahead.
why are we transferring these lots?
We've had them on our possession since the early 70s. I imagine at the time we needed them for potential expansion. We have since taken the food service process center out of Catalpa Street and moved it to Ludwig because we couldn't build in the floodplain. All these lots are in the floodplain, so unless we're going to build a baseball field out there, they're pretty much unused and useless to us. So this will allow us to not maintain them anymore, mow them, and we've had, unfortunately, people think they're a dump. So.
And what is Hopson House?
Hopson House is a nonprofit center that deals with drug abuse and basically is a live-in facility, and they educate them to get back on their feet, but then also be workforce ready.
And do you have any idea what their intended use of the real estate is going to be?
Unfortunately, because they can't build on it, it'll be more of the outside recreation, so they're looking at expansion of the greenhouses that a previous Catawba Street Industries had started, an orchard to grow trees and fruit, and then also some other outside learning education center, especially to the south, that they started, they can expand it.
Okay.
Darren, is there an alley or easement that separates what we're planning to transfer and the southern boundary of our property there?
Yeah, there's currently an alley that separates us from those, and then there's three different sections that are all separated by streets.
Any other questions?
Did they initiate this? Did they come to us with the
Yes, they did.
proposal?
Yes.
Okay, and then they're going to pay for the closing costs and so forth?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not going to cost us anything to
That is
transfer?
correct.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thanks, Darren. Okay, all those in favor of authorizing the transfer, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and Ann, 2018 extracurricular account equipment purchase.
It's recommended that the attached report of equipment purchases be officially accepted by the board. Equipment purchases, including equipment reconditioning over $500 from extracurricular funds, are subject to approval by the Board of School Trustees. The State Board of Accounts has agreed that these purchases and reconditioning may be accepted annually. The report is submitted by Fort Community School unit heads for 2018, and questions will be addressed by Kathy Friend, Chief Financial Officer.
Okay, thanks. We have a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Steve. Any questions? Nope. Okay. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now we have the first semester extracurricular account reports. And that is this huge, is it this one? Yes. For every school, right? It's recommended that the board accept the extracurricular account reports for the first semester of the 18-19 school year. Indiana Code 2041-1-8 requires an accurate account of all money received and expended by extracurricular accounts. A report of the sources of all receipts, the purposes for which the money was expended, and the balance on hand is required to be filed with the School Board of Trustees. All extracurricular semester reports are audited by the business office. The general ledger summary report of each school's accounts is provided. All extracurricular records are maintained for 5 years and are available for inspection. Questions will be addressed by Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved?
Second.
Thanks, Glenna. Thanks, Maria. Any questions?
How'd everybody do, Kathy?
They did pretty good. Now, this is not a specific audit of their records. We're auditing the report to make sure it matches what their bank statements say and all that. The actual internal audits that occur are at the high school level twice a year, the middle school once a year, and then elementaries about every 3 years. So this is just merely a compliance document that we have to report to the state that these balances do match bank records, and then they get submitted to the state for just so that they have a record. They will use that data then to determine if they want to go further and do another audit of the school. They don't audit everybody every year anymore like they used to.
Kathy, who is middle school athletics? Because all these other accounts were, under a school.
Right. There's a specific extracurricular account that's just committed to middle school athletics. High school athletics are within the high school accounts, but the middle schools don't have, athletic directors in each one of their schools. So the middle school athletics is all combined into one extracurricular account, and there's a treasurer that takes care of just those activities in the middle school.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we have report of 2018 gifts, grants, and donations. It's recommended that the attached list of gifts, grants, and donations be officially accepted by the board. Throughout the school year, various schools receive gifts and donations from individuals, organizations, and businesses. Authorization to receive gifts is a board function. The State Board of Accounts has agreed that a listing of all gifts received during any one year and ratified by the board would meet audit requirements. So attached, board members have a list that's been submitted by various unit heads for 2018. A detailed report is on file in the business office. Unit heads are encouraged to express appropriate appreciation for any and all gifts received. And Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend will answer any questions. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Maria. Questions? Comments? It's an impressive list.
It really is. And what we see sprinkled throughout this report is the support of the PTA at a number of buildings, and then those schools associated with Be Instrumental. You can see the purchase of instruments in those schools, and then a long laundry list of businesses that have some relationship with each school in some way, and they've been there.
And a lot of churches. A lot of churches, yeah. Booster clubs, alumni associations, a lot of local businesses, yeah, like you said, Steve. I think I added up approximately a little over $125,000 from the Be Instrumental program, the Fort Wayne Community School Foundation, which is awesome. And a significant donation from a group of retirees at the Townhouse Retirement Home, like $12,000.
Wow.
Any other questions or comments? Definitely grateful to those PTAs. That's a lot of volunteering by parents, staff, principals. That's awesome. So, all those in favor of accepting and approving this list signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now we have a public hearing regarding a possible facility and equipment renovation and replacement project. It's recommended that the board conduct the first of two public hearings regarding a possible facility and equipment renovation and replacement project. The second public hearing is scheduled for August 12th, 2019. Both hearings were properly advertised on July 1st, 2019. The board participated in a public work session on June 25th to learn more about the status of the Fort Wayne Community Schools strategic facility planning. The details of the plan suggest moving forward with a short-term bond issue to allow completion of various projects at 27 buildings. Projects include expansion of music areas at 2 middle schools, lighting and locker improvements at 6 buildings, ADA accessibility improvements at 2 buildings, masonry restoration at 3 buildings, window replacements at 1 building, roof replacements at 6 buildings, temperature control upgrades at 5 schools, and marker board conversions. As advertised, Subsequent to the public hearing held on August 12th, the board expects to consider adoption of a resolution regarding the nature of the project and making a preliminary determination to issue one or more series of general obligation bonds. Prior to the public hearing this evening, Kathy Friend, Chief Financial Officer, and Darren Hess, Director of Facilities, have a presentation for us. So after the presentation and board comments, it'll be an appropriate time for members of the public to address the board. So I guess we'll go ahead and open the public hearing now. And Darren,
Good evening.
you're up.
Thank you, President Hollingsworth, members of the board, and Dr. Robinson. It's my pleasure tonight to give you an update on our repair program for FWCS. On the agenda tonight, we'll talk about how we get to a repair program, and we do that through our strategic capital renewal plan. We always want to go back and look at the original goals of the program, and then we're going to talk about the accomplishments so far and then our next steps. To do this, you need to have a funding plan. Sorry. And the tax impact with the funding plan. We'll talk about some more additional information regarding financing, and then the next steps, talking about Repair 2020 and beyond. I feel like Buzz Lightyear with that. On the strategic capital renewal plan, we have individuals within facilities that we annually review the condition of our district's 60 buildings. It's about 5.5 million square feet. We look at mechanical, electrical, general building systems, windows, mechanical or masonry, all of those infrastructure items. Our average age of our buildings is 61 years old. We review and update replacement plans and timelines for major building components, such as our roofs. We have almost 5 million square feet of roofing, boilers, chillers, fire alarms, etc. In that process, we also consult with our maintenance and operations supervisors and technicians to assess mechanical, electrical, and plumbing needs that they feel are reaching before their end of life because of use. And then we work with other departments such as curriculum, security, technology, identifying those significant programmatic changes that will require changes with our building infrastructure to support those programs. We then have to annually prioritize and identify our funding sources to be able to accomplish our goals. We use our annual capital projects plan, our general obligation bonds or referendum bonds to assist us. So again, we go back to our repair program goals, which we discussed in 2012. We want to, first and foremost, we have to replace the infrastructure in the building that has reached its end of useful life. We're looking at a 40 to 50 year lifespan, typically on most of those major systems. That's your curtain wall system, your windows, your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, the things that are behind the walls and above the ceilings. We want to eliminate substandard environmental conditions. So we want to look at what are keeping kids away, what are keeping the staff members from not coming in because they're sick. So we're looking at air quality, temperature, the lighting. All of those things are going to be helping to improve that learning environment for our staff and for our students. Whenever we can, we want to increase safety for the students of our staff and students. We want to increase the overall efficiency of the buildings to decrease energy use as we're making all these replacements. We want to try and maintain that roof replacement schedule that is ongoing and cyclical in nature and will never go away. And we want to maintain a maximum tax rate of the 0.3028 with the overall goal of providing that better overall learning environment for our students. So it's good to always go back to our initial goals and make sure that we are staying true to them. So what have we done so far? So 2012 referendum, we accomplished 10 major improvements. That was complete building renovations such as Snyder, Harrison Hill Memorial Park. In 2016, we have 3 of them complete. And we have 3 of them currently under construction. We have Washington Center and Lane finishing up this summer. Northrop, we have one more school year in the summer, and we'll be starting Shawnee and Price next year, with Waynedale and Lindley the following year. So that gives us a total of 20 through those two referendums of major building improvements. Air conditioning, by the end of 2016 referendum, all buildings will be air conditioned. Window replacements, we've attacked most of them, and we only have a handful of them left after these two referendums. The secure vestibules, we have 6 currently under construction, and we have what's remaining, 5 next year. And then we have in our proposal to finish those off. Classroom security, again, in the same line, we've done 33 of them at the end of the referendum, and then we've done several roof replacements to try to stay on target. One of you, the last time, I believe, Maria, you had asked about some of the energy savings that we've accomplished so far. A good one is Haley Elementary, because we actually had air conditioning in that building prior. But just replacing the windows and the major mechanical electrical systems and components, we're seeing a decrease in 43% between electricity and natural gas.
43%?
43%. And we look at just a window building that we replaced windows in, or curtain wall, depending on how much fenestration we had in that building, anywhere from 10 to 20% savings. And that's obviously important, because that's an annual savings or cost avoidance that we have through the project. So the next steps, what we're bringing with you as part of this next repair package, 3 more major improvements at Wayne, Blackhawk, and Miami. Building expansions at Scott and Franke Park. Those 2 buildings currently have modular classrooms, so this would be removing the modular classrooms. The music area renovations at 2 of the middle schools. These are 2 in particular that have just exploded with the Be Instrumental program, and now we have to support that program by providing a correct facility so they can actually fit in there and play instruments. Corridor lighting and locker improvements. This is primarily in middle schools that we have not touched yet in the major infrastructure projects, such as Lakeside and Kikianga and Tolls. And that's going through and replacing corridor lockers, lighting, ceilings, and PE lockers. Entrance vestibule and office security. This is the remainder of those schools, so this will finish all of them off. We have 12 of them remaining, and they're real difficult. And they also include elevators, such schools like Forest Park and Washington that have multiple levels. So it'll also provide ADA accessibility with these lifts. And we're modernizing all of our existing lifts and elevators to meet current regulatory requirements. And at the end of the next project, we'll be complete with that throughout the district. We have 9 more buildings with window replacements and masonry restoration. I'd like to say we're caught up after the next program with the masonry restoration, but with brick and stone, you're always going to be maintaining those. But the windows, once you replace it with the double pane glass, it's done, so we can check that off. So we'll have, I believe, 4 more buildings with that, 3 to 4 more buildings. Roof replacements, another chunk of them. These are sections, so 26 buildings. Temperature controls, this is at 6 buildings, and it's taken 1990s technology and making it 2020 technology. And then at 20 buildings, partial marker board conversions from chalk in the classrooms.
That's sad.
Check mark. We'll be done.
More chalk dust everywhere.
So what was presented to you on the previous slide was a plan where we feel like we need to get the school district, the building conditions improved for our school district. And we can do that in 2 parts and get to the tax rate that we promised the taxpayer back in 2012. So that's the goal of this, and what we're presenting to you is a 2-part plan. And tonight is the public hearing actually for the first part, but to be transparent, we wanted to bring forward the entire plan that we intend to bring to the board this year. So the first part is the 2019 general obligation bond for $8.15 million. And the benefit of doing this in the two parts is that by doing a short-term bond issue, we can save a substantial amount of interest by borrowing over a 2-year period of time and repaying that loan quickly versus putting it in the bigger referendum and paying for it over 20 years. So by doing this, we can potentially save $3.5 million by doing this in the short term and still be at the tax rate that we promised the community that we would not exceed. So the second part of the equation would be the 2020 referendum, which would come back to the board at the end of November and early December. We would have 2 additional public hearings for the referendum, and that would be for $125 million and repaid over 20 years. So again, tonight is just to have a public hearing for the general obligation bond, but we will come back with the other program. So you have a list of the projects that would be included in the GO bond and a list of projects that would be included in the referendum. So that way you can see of the projects that you saw on the previous slide, which ones would get taken care of in the GO bond, and then the remainder would be taken care of in the referendum. So that's the funding plan for these projects. So now if we look at the tax impact to an average home, and this considers both of those things would occur. Just reflecting back, in 2014 was the first year that the 2012 bond issue had a full payment, and that year a cost to a $100,000 home was $98. That same home in 2019 has probably increased in value. We don't know exactly how much, but if we look at what the assessed value has grown in the community and apply that to the $100,000 home, it would be assessed at about $108,000 right now. And again, the tax bill would still be $98 because our tax rate currently is below that 0.3028 that we were had a goal of. So in 2020, with these two issues, we would, and actually only the GO bond would have repayments beginning in 2020. And if we set the goal of the 0.3028, it could cost a taxpayer about $117 in 2020, and assuming again that their assessed value maybe grows 2% in 2020. So that would be about a $1.58 increase a month compared to what the current tax bill is for our debt service. Since the first referendum, the average home is averaged an estimated annual debt cost of about $101 for our total debt, which includes also our technology, and then the proposed new debt is also included in that equation. So in a nutshell, just that gives you some information about the average home. The next slide I thought was interesting for this board to look at because this compares us to the 10 largest school districts in Indiana so that you can see how our debt rate reflects compared to those other school districts. So you can see that we're the second lowest currently at 0.257, and those are all 2019 rates except for our second orange bar there. I just stuck a bar in there so you could see the 0.3028, what it would look like also with everyone else's 2019 rates. So I think, it shows that we're very conservative here at Fort Wayne Community Schools, and we have kept our debt rate low. And I think the other positive thing is that this board has always had a plan and not just, throwing out ideas and doing bond issues. There's been a long-term plan to stay within a maximum tax rate, and we've communicated that to the public, and that's where our goal is, to stay within that plan. So I thought that would be good information. This is information that's required to be provided by our bond counsel. Stated that we had to share this information with you tonight. So this explains what our current debt levy is. It's $20.7 million, that debt service levy, and our tax rate is 0.2573. It's estimated that our debt service levy in 2020 would go to $25.2 million, and that's not just for this this bond issue that we're asking you to do a public hearing for. That includes other debt too, is included in part of that increase. The tax rate would be at the maximum, 0.3028, and we do have the ability to control that maximum, because if for some reason it would come in a little bit higher, we have the way to back off on some of the cash balance that the state allows us to set. So we would definitely have a maximum rate of 0.3028, and the rate increase due to the project is the 0.0410. The total estimated interest on this new bond would be $1.3 million over the 2 years of repayment, and the debt service as a percentage of the net assessed value is 0.41%. And I asked Jim Elizondo here from Stifel, and he said that that is a very competitive to other school districts around the state, low, I can say. And our outstanding debt per assessed value is about 4.5%. So those are factors you need to know before we proceed with the bond issue. As far as next steps are concerned, we did have the work session already. We are now required to have 2 public hearings. In the past, you were only required to have 1. So this tonight would complete the first public hearing. August 12th, we would have the second one, and we would also have the vote that evening. And these projects in the $8.15 million bond issue would be completed during the years of 20 and 21, the same years that we would be repaying those bonds. So it's sort of like a pay-as-you-go situation with those bonds, and the interest rate is expected to be fairly low. So that's another benefit of going forward with this particular funding plan that we have. And then secondly, we would come back again in the fall, as I had mentioned, with the Repair 2020 bond issue of $125 million. So we would have time between now and then to have community meetings to let the public know exactly what our plans are with that referendum, and would conduct public hearings about that, and then the vote would be on the referendum May the 5th if the board decides to go forward with that project. So that's all we have to share with you. We have a...
We have what?
Oh, I don't know about that slide.
Yeah, we always got to keep the boss on her toes. The next steps beyond 2020, the Buzz Lightyear slide. With this, our buildings, you always will need periodic renewal, so this isn't the end-all. Our current goal, again, is to maintain that maximum debt rate of 0.3028. Assuming that maximum tax rate, funding for future referendums will not be available for approximately 10 to 15 years. So, in 2012, 2016, now 2020, it's going to be not 4 years later or 6 years later that we're going to have capacity to still stay underneath that 3028. And we look at future needs and continue to be assessed and propose utilizing our strategic capital renewal planning.
So Kathy, remind me, how much, for example, did we lose in our capital projects? I mean, it's not called that anymore, that fund anymore, but
Yeah.
that's still capital projects money that goes into the operations fund. Did we lose due to tax caps? And how much have we lost over the past, when did those go into effect? 2010?
2009, yeah. We lost about $6 million in 2019 because of the tax caps. Now, about $3 million of that approximately was the capital projects fund. Now it's all in the operations fund. So, I'd say it's like $40-some million approximately that we've lost in tax caps.
So just this year alone, about $3
Six.
million
Well, yeah.
on capital,
project, yeah.
capital projects
You could say
money
that,
and
yeah.
close to.
Well, over all of the whole circuit breaker, it's about $40 million, I think.
But again, that's money that we could
Right.
have spent.
And maybe half of that
on locker
was-
improvements, temperature controls, roof replacements, things that we used to be able to do with capital projects.
I think that's
but we
really
can't
important.
anymore.
I mean, the money that we lost with the circuit breaker limited our ability to do pay-as-you-go projects like we could have done in the past. And so maybe, let's say it's $20 million over time affected the capital projects fund, because some of that affected transportation and bus replacement as, instead. So, but definitely that affected. Now, would that have still been enough? And would we still have needed to do this? We still would have needed to have done something.
Absolutely.
Maybe not
Major
at the same
project,
level
right.
that we needed to do it, but we still would have had to do something because we wouldn't have been able to catch up with everything that needed to be done.
And so the average, or this $100,000 home, when we kind of first started our referendum project process, so what we're talking about here is an increase of what? Just under $20 a year
Right, yeah.
in taxes,
Right,
so
right.
roughly $1.60 or something, so a month. Okay.
So if I understand correctly, for less than $2 a month, if the community supports the referendum, we will get $8.15 million to use today because Darren needs it to put the buildings in shape. And then we will get, in 2020, $125 million to do additional work to bring our schools up to par.
That's right, that's right. And to keep the rate the same during that time.
As we
Yeah,
promised.
right.
So for $20 a year, I get all this work done. And Steve, I think you'll agree with me that strong schools make for strong neighborhoods, and strong neighborhoods make for great communities.
Here's what caught my attention is when you said that if we go with this GO bond, short-term, $8 million worth of work, that we save $3.5 million if we do the other option and throw that into the big project.
That's right.
That catches my attention. I think taxpayers get that right away.
That's right. Yeah. And just to clarify that more, the reason we can't do short-term bonds the whole time is because a project like Wayne that would be on the list is very expensive.
Right.
And so it would have to be included in a referendum or a large bond issue because you couldn't roll that into a small one like we're able to do with these smaller projects within the $8 million bond issue.
One of the things that caught my attention was we've been averaging a referendum about every 4 years, but we have pledged to keep the tax rate the same. And we won't be able to come back for quite a long period of time. So there isn't plans somewhere to roll out another referendum in 4 years.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because we did a 2012, we did a 2016, now we're doing a 2020. And if we look at our debt schedule over time and assume a growth in assessed value of about 2% a year, it would be a number of years before the district could come back, maybe 15 years. You know, it just depends on where assessed value lands, but it could be many, many years, but it certainly wouldn't be 4 years unless a different board made a different decision about raising that tax rate. So if we're going to continue at the 3028, it's going to be many years beyond 2020 that we would come back and do another referendum.
And really, to anybody that was paying attention, the 2020 referendum shouldn't be, a surprise because in 2011, we actually discussed one huge bond issue over the, 8, 10, 12, over that time span. So, but the board made, I think, the correct decision. And at that time, to go with something smaller, so a piece in 2012, and the next piece in 2016, and now the next piece in 2020.
That's right.
Kathy, would you, Darren, or Jim Elizondo know a little bit more about, there was that one slide you showed with respect to capital project costs in the largest school districts around the state, that one. Do you know if those, especially with the two highest, Wayne Township and Hammond, do those numbers jump up and down, or have they been at that elevated number for a period of time?
I'll let Jim answer that question.
Hello, I'm Jim Elizondo with Stiefel. It's nice to be before you this evening. I can't speak exactly to each of them, but I know Wayne Township and Hammond have not followed the same track that you have as a school corporation by setting a level, they've had to increase each year, each time they've gone to the markets with additional referendum and larger projects. So if you were to look at their debt service portion, you would see incremental increases. Vigo has tried to go for referendum, and so I expect others to increase above this. I don't know if Evansville has kept a solid level, but I know the majority of those have not stuck to something that you as a board set back in 2011 or 2012. Most of these, through my recollection or understanding of their districts, have seen incremental increases as needs have arisen. Those boards have chosen or have decided they had to take a tax increase to move forward. Does that help, Mr. Cronin?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
With this, we will have secure vestibules in all of our schools.
Yes, that is correct.
And then can you explain what exactly that a secure vestibule does?
It just gives us, buys us some more time to vet the person coming in to visit us. That separates them from the common area of the school. So they get checked in at the front door first, which is locked. So we have a first check at the front door through video cameras and through intercom system. Then they're in the inner vestibule, the secure vestibule. And then there's another locked door that our newer process has, that they have a secondary lock to come in. And then they go through our safe vendor kiosk process. And once they're approved, then they have, a lot of times they just meet with staff in the office, and they don't have to go out to the school. But if they're a parent volunteer coming in or whatever from the community, then it goes through another door into the school. So it more buys time and has many opportunities to vet that visitor and make sure they should be there.
Thank you.
And if they're approved, they're given a sticker to wear, aren't they?
That is correct.
And the sticker has a timer on it, such that if they exceed the approved time, a little stop sign shows up on the white stick. Am I right?
I'm not 100% positive of that.
I know it's that way at
Yes,
Southside.
there's Mike. Okay.
That way any teacher can spot them and say, you're out of time. Actually has a picture of them on their tag.
That's correct.
And the secret little stop sign.
Yes, sir.
How long have we been using that?
Safe Vendor has been around, I'm going to say 2000, I'm so sorry, 2017? 16, 17. Yeah, 16, 17.
Because at the last meeting I had with Mike, he was wearing one of those little stickers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
His time expired?
You still
Any other comments or questions?
Just one. If, I don't want to assume anything, but if the board supports the Go Bond plan, which this public hearing is all about, might it be, I like this for my purpose, but I'm just thinking that if I were a patron at one of the schools, I'm going to pick one out of the page here, Studi, I really don't care what's happening in any other building. I really don't. Is there some way to take all the projects that are proposed for a single facility and to create those pages so that as I go to meet with my teacher or open house days, that maybe you've already done it, that I can just take a look at my school. I don't, the hell with everybody else.
Yeah.
But here's what my school's going to get.
Well, none of them do. They all care about each other.
Maybe.
You should have in your board packet, we call our bingo sheet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't list all the projects, but a lot of the major components. And then when they have had or are getting a renovation through one of the referendums. And then it also shows, one of the things that visually I like to see is that, it covers every building with something that we've done in the last decade with these projects. So, yep, you got it?
So right now, this is our facilities repair website that is live online. And right where the pointer is are links to all the handouts that you have that have the GeoBond summary, the Repair 2020 program summary, and the overall project summary, the bingo sheet that Darren is referring to. That's live, that's out there on the facilities repair website, on the FWCS website. And it's definitely something, if the schools want to set up their own link to that from their individual school websites, they can absolutely do that.
But on, is it August the 5th, Kathy? We're going to have, this is a topic at leadership, and explain to all department heads and all unit heads how to describe this. So first, obviously, we had to have this conversation, but to your point, everybody's going to have to sell it and have the answers to patrons' questions.
Well, again, when Kara, our new principal, meets with her parents, I think it would be awfully nice if we just say, hey, here's what may happen here, or another principal in her shoes that can say, this is the focus of the school at my building. I know we are charged with sharing the love with all of our buildings.
Yes.
But anyway.
Point taken.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And since this is a public hearing, the microphone is open in case anyone wishes to address the board. Going once, going twice. Okay. So our public hearing regarding the possible facility and equipment renovation and replacement project is now closed. And that brings us to the end of our items on our agenda. We don't have any other reports. So we next meet Monday, August 12th, which will be the second public hearing for the possible project. So, board member comments.
Well, I just landed about an hour and a half ago. We spent a week in Mexico. My son Vince was married Saturday. And it was quite an interesting, I was sharing some of this with Glenna, quite an interesting ceremony. The dads involved gave away their son and daughter. Mariachi band appeared at 11 o'clock at night, followed by tamale breakfast at 1 a.m. I was not around for that, by the way. But I tell you, it's so good to be back in the United States of America. As Tom was selling us on milk, I want to tell you that pasteurized milk in Mexico is not what milk is like in the United States. It is pasteurized in a different way so that it becomes shelf stable. It's a little sweeter, but it doesn't taste very good in your coffee. And so after this meeting, I'm going to go get some half and half and make sure that I've got some and ready for my cup in the morning. We had a great time, but it is so good to be back.
Glenna?
I just want to say, again, I want to thank Darren and his team for all their due diligence in pulling all this information together, along with Kathy, who always steers us very carefully down all these financial trails. And I'm just hoping that, again, the community will want to support our schools, and I can't imagine them not, especially when they've seen, if they've been in any of the buildings that have been renovated, they know what a difference it has made in order for us to take pride in our schools and also to be able to compete with all the surrounding school districts. So I'm looking forward to getting through this process, and I'm counting on the community to support us.
Done?
I think most of us know that recently the state announced that they're going to make some money available to help pay for the new extended stop arms that could be placed on buses should you choose to avail yourself of that money. I don't know if it pays for everything, but it would help underwrite the cost to some degree. And this has caught the attention of a number of parents, and they've been talking to talking to me over the past month. And I've been hearing from them, and a lot of them are saying they would like to see the school district try out the new extended stop arms on some of our buses to see if they improve student safety. And I happen to agree with them. You know, maybe we could work out an arrangement with the manufacturer to install some of these new arms on a trial basis. If they're effective, then we could equip more buses with them, with these new extended arms. You know, I've read one of the concerns that was talked about was that maybe the arms are too long, and, you know, they may be an obstruction, or a car could hit them, or you could hit a telephone pole. I'm not quite sure. And so I was thinking that maybe if we could work with the manufacturer during some sort of a test period or trial period, we could test different lengths of arms to see what works best. And I think that would go quite a ways to helping calm some of the fears that some people have about these extended arms. Now, I don't know if they're going to work or not, but I think it's worth trying. And I know I, for one, would really like to see the district undertake this potential life-saving opportunity. The money is there. I think we should try it out. I think we could work with the manufacturer, hopefully, to do something on a trial basis. Maybe they could give us a break on some of the costs. And if it works out, then we would purchase more of them for some of our buses. So I would really like to see the district seriously consider undertaking a test period for these extended arms to see how well they work. I know a lot of people out there would like to see that happen. So I would encourage the district to investigate this. Thank you.
Thanks.
I don't have much. I just want to echo what Glenna said. Excited about everything that Kathy and Darren and Heather showed us tonight, and I got the opportunity to help get Harrison Hill ready for school this past weekend with my church, and I'll tell you, nothing makes you want to go to school like freshly painted yellow lines. I was ready to go. I was like, okay, let's go. So that was just a really great opportunity to help the community, and in our list of donations, there were a lot of churches and businesses and organizations that donate to our schools, and so I know that this community loves our school district, and like Glenna said, I would hope that our community would just continue to wrap their arms around our school district and make them better for our students and our staff. And just want to remind parents that we do have registration coming up this Friday and Monday. You should have gotten several text messages and emails about that, so we hope that we'll see you all out at the buildings.
Thanks.
Can't remember when it was, sometime last week, I was out walking the dog and saw that Foreign Community Schools was participating in the Three Rivers Festival Open Streets Day, whatever that was, which is so cool to walk down the streets of downtown Fort Wayne with no cars. And I went by the Fort Community Schools booths. There were several that were participating. It was great to see them out there. And then my daughter reported that we had also participated in the Bar Street Market. So So we are also getting out into our community too to show what we do and who we are. So glad to see that.
No comment.
Nice. Dr. Robinson?
No comment, but I do want to kind of follow up a little bit on the stop arm. And we already had done some preliminary conversations because that was when it was announced by the governor, that was the buzz. But one of the things I want to caution people about is our state's really good at throwing ideas out and providing no money to do it. And we have 300-plus buses. So one of the things I would rely on is Frank Jackson trying to explain that. And so we had done some preliminary conversations. We'll get back to the board on that because that becomes an issue. One of the things that I would strongly urge us to talk about is when I drive to school, we have got to do better education with people. These big yellow buses that are real hard not to see. So I think one of the things we should also be pushing is a strong public education along with stop arms or whatever else, because people just don't pay attention to children when they're getting on and off those buses. So, and we'll talk a little bit about what we can do to kind of push that too, because that's an education piece.
Okay. Did anyone happen to go to the Eddie Melton and the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Jennifer McCormick, were in town? Any report on that? Other than the fact that the Republicans were all kookalooka because Jennifer McCormick agreed on, to reach across the aisle and discuss education with the public with a Democrat there.
One thing that I liked hearing was that Eddie Melton did make the comment that he likes to ask the practitioners when they're, what kind of bill do we need for education? I think I'll ask the experts. So he reiterated that a lot, that he would consult with teachers, with practitioners, as you said, regarding education and what we need. So that was what impressed me the most, I think.
I was able to attend. I really liked that they called it a listening session and that they actually listened to what teachers had to say. I liked that Dr. McCormick shared that 94% of Hoosier families pick public education. And so that should be where our focus is if 94% of our families opt to attend our public schools. So we have to be doing something right, and we need to support our public schools more.
Yeah. I was able to attend the first listening session in Indianapolis. I was down there, I think, on the 11th. Before we went to Mexico, and I think, as Maria said, they did listen. I just told them that in our county, charter schools have had a very poor record, although people in other counties claim that they were experiencing some success. But anyway, I appreciated the fact that both of them did listen to the comments in the room.
Good. And if you're interested, remember there's an ongoing next level teacher compensation commission that is filled with no teachers, but business leaders and other leaders in the community who have been meeting in private to discuss ways of increasing teacher compensation. They do have an advisory board that has one teacher on it. But they are going to have 3 public meetings. I'm hoping they're listening sessions, but it will be interesting to see how many of the commission members actually attend. But there's 3, north, central, south. So August 27th in Elkhart at 7 p.m. No location yet. So that will be the northern location for.
What date is that, Julie?
August 27th, I think, Thursday. Am I right?
What time?
No, it's a Tuesday.
Well, then it's a Tuesday. Let me check my calendar.
7.
How'd you know that?
Tuesday, sorry, did I say? Tuesday, August 27th, 7 p.m. in Elkhart.
Okay.
Don't know where yet. Okay. Anything else for the good cause, or should we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair?
Okay. All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nobody ever opposes. So the microphone is open for anyone who wishes to address the board.